When you speak, do you feel that you tend to lose control over your words? You might even know what you want to say, but for some reason, the words aren't coming out of your mouth as effectively as you would like them. You might even feel like you're blanking out while speaking. If this happens to you, you're not alone. Communications did not come naturally to me for the longest time. And I felt that I could speak comfortably to friends and family, but in any high pressure environments, my mind and mouth were just not synced. And I was constantly finding myself in situations where people were asking me to repeat things, were not able to clearly understand me, and I was just overall lacking any sort of fluency, clarity, or structure. And because of that, I wasn't able to articulate in a flow. So I tried a lot of different things. I tried going to Toastmasters, I bought a bunch of courses, I read a lot of communication books, but none of that really helped until I understood three specific principles that helped me have more control over my words and language. And this three-step approach will not only help you have more control over your words, but it'll help you organize your thinking so that you can structure your thoughts and hence articulate your ideas clearly and concisely. Before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Pradeep from Frantically Speaking. We release communications content all the time, so hit subscribe if you haven't already. It's very easy to understand that communications is a lot to do with our mind, of course. But communications is also a lot to do with our body. And when we get nervous, our body reacts accordingly. We tighten up, our face crunches up, we tend to speak in a very robotic fashion, even though we might not realize it. If you don't know, in fact, you can try recording yourself and seeing how your entire body language is tight, especially if you're feeling nervous before hitting record. So the first thing we need to do to clear the mind is to calm the body down. And the easiest way to do that is to focus on your breathing. And by this, I don't mean meditation. I just mean following one simple breathing technique that you can either make a part of your daily routine or just do it before you have to communicate in an important environment. This technique is called as box breathing, and it's the first element to help you have more control over your words. The way box breathing works is imagine a square and a small dot going through every border of the square. And as the dot keeps on going through one side, you breathe in. On the next side, you hold that in breath. On the third side, you breathe out. And then finally, you hold the out breath. And then you can keep repeating the process over and over again. And the reason why this works is because our body is giving the signal to our mind and saying, hey, don't worry, there's no real threat over here. And automatically our mind is able to organize its thinking and hence increase our chances of speaking with more control and articulation. That's step number one, box breathing. Before we move ahead, try an entire round of box breathing right now. The animation will be on the screen in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, now that you're back, step number 2 is the 2-second pause. The 2-second pause is all about giving our mind some more time to respond. When we are asked a question, whether we are in an interview or we are cross-questioned after a presentation, or even if you're having a conversation, our instinct is to respond immediately. And that's okay in most cases if we are having good control over our words. If you're speaking on topics we're completely an expert at, then fine. But sometimes, even if we have the knowledge and are experts, we're not able to communicate the most effective points in that moment itself. And that's because we're not giving our mind enough time to organize and bring those important points to the forefront. That's why the 2-second pause comes in. It means the next time you're asked a question, and this mainly applies to professional settings, but you can also use it for social situations. You want to simply pause and then speak. This can also be applied in presentations. When you go on stage, instead of just starting to speak directly, give your mind some time to accommodate to this new environment and then start speaking. The reason why this works is because 2 seconds is plenty of time for our mind to gather information, and hence we're able to increase our chances of structuring that information a lot more effectively. And when I say 2 seconds, that's just an arbitrary number. When you're speaking, try to sprinkle in more pauses, especially before you start speaking. Always remember, familiarity breeds comfort. The more familiar your mind is with a question or a situation or an environment, the more comfortable it will be to organize and speak with control. And the third and most important technique is to use something called as framework-based thinking. Framework-based thinking means organizing our thoughts consciously and then speaking in a structured format. This is the easiest and most reliable way to have control over your words. You can start by doing it in a prepared situation, and then slowly it'll start coming to you in spontaneous situations as well. Now, there are many different communication frameworks. Let's give an example of one. This framework is called AEA, and it stands for answer, example, answer. That's all. Let's understand a quick example here. So let's say you're in an interview and you're asked a question. So how do you stay updated with the latest trends in technology? Now, in that moment, you can just say, I tend to, read a lot of books. I tend to look at articles very often, and that's how I would ensure that I'm up to date. And I can also try applying those things in this role as well, which is a very half-baked answer. But AEA allows us to speak with much more flow. Here's what it can look like. I stay updated with the latest tech trends by dedicating time each week to focus on specific areas like AI or cloud technologies. For example, I follow key influencers on Twitter and subscribe to newsletters like The Pragmatic Engineer for deep insights. I also take online courses. A recent one I took was on Kubernetes, which has already helped us improve our cloud infrastructure in the previous company I worked at. This targeted approach helps me stay informed and apply new knowledge directly to our projects, ensuring continuous improvement and innovation. And this would automatically sound a lot more professional, but it can be used in other situations outside of interviews as well. For instance, let's say you have to talk about a random topic, that is, how do you navigate office politics with integrity? Here's how you can use AEA. I navigate office politics with integrity by staying transparent and prioritizing collaborative solutions. For instance, during a recent project, there was tension between departments over resource allocation. So instead of taking sides, I organized a meeting where each department could present their needs and concerns. And with this open dialogue, we could meet to a compromise without sacrificing on deadlines. This not only resolved the conflict, but deepened the overall relationship with our colleagues. So by handling politics with transparency and a focus on fair outcomes, I think we can create a more cooperative working environment. So those are a couple of examples of AEA. I hope you're ideating certain instances in your personal life where you can utilize this. A good way to start is if you're writing an email or anything written in nature, you can apply the framework over there first. So if somebody asks you a question, instead of just responding in one word, you can create a much better structure by using the AEA framework. Once you get used to applying it on a written format, you can start applying it in spoken situations as well. But earlier in the video, I told you that there are a lot of different frameworks. AEA is just one example. And different frameworks apply for different situations and different questions. So it's important to have these in your tool belt so that you have a lot more control over your words. In fact, we've created an entire video on 5 different mental models or frameworks that you can utilize to speak more effectively. And you can check out that whole video right here.